Can you do it?
Yes, you can.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Smeller. Look, you've started the honey flowing. You know, we're celebrating today because it's been 9 years since we started. We put our hive up on crowdfunding and it went totally crazy. It was a whirlwind, and if you were there at the start, chime in and let us know what it was like for you if you purchased one of our very first hives on crowdfunding in 2015. It's thinking back on it, it was a kind of euphoric experience because it just all happened so fast. We put it up on crowdfunding and within 7 minutes we had hit target, and I was in the middle of a radio interview with Stu, my dad, talking about this invention, and it was an ABC TV interview actually, and someone jumped down in the background and said, "Hey, you've hit target, you've hit your $70,000, and I was like, "What?" I just walked straight off camera, and then it was this wild thing of breaking records. With the fastest to $1 million 2 hours later of orders of our flow hives, and it just kept going and going. It was the most extreme start from two of us who are used to living on a shoestring.
Borrowing money. We were borrowing money, and we really had no idea how well this would go. Some beekeepers had been astounded by it, and other beekeepers had been really lukewarm and thought, oh, they might like it in Europe, you know. And so we didn't know. It was a brand new thing. No one had ever done it before. And we just had no idea what the uptake would be, whether people would say, no, I don't need that, or yes, got to have it. And luckily, the second one was, you know, I guess another surprise was how many that it encouraged so many people to take up beekeeping. Many of them would have been dreaming of it for the years, but they said, this is it, I'm going to get into beekeeping at last. And that's been really heartening, because we believe beekeepers and beekeepers have this window into the world of insects and pollinators that's so important for us as a whole population around the world to understand and integrate into our farming practices and our daily life practices. We've got to protect our pollinators.
It's such an amazing thing. The European honeybee is such an incredible species, and I've learnt so much about them through all of you all around the world who have been helping educate me over the years. And it's been this incredible journey of just learning about so many things, and this incredible species that can pollinate, a hive like this could pollinate 50 million flowers in a day, which is absolutely extraordinary. There's no other species on the planet, so we're really happy to be encouraging not only more bees but more beekeepers, because our food chain is now kind of tangled up with this system of pollination, and if we don't have enough beekeepers to look after the bees, then we're in trouble. So,
well, yeah, let alone all the wild plants and the forests, and you know, creating the world that makes that, you know, we can live in. Anyway, it's been an amazing journey, as Peter said, and while he might have got a euphoric, I think I just sort of left my body out of complete terror, and took quite a while to come back. It was so overwhelming to have to be part of such a successful crowdfunding campaign 9 years ago, and yeah, very, very grateful to all of the people who took the risk and said, yeah, I'm going to back you guys. Whoa! I just smashed a jar. Oh well. Yeah, so grateful to all of those early backers, the foundation supporters, and then everyone else who's jumped on board. And thank you to the whole Flow community for your enthusiasm, and, you know, as I said earlier on, to take a risk, and now to just be part of what is an amazing group of people, all of all shapes and sizes and political persuasions and races and creeds, all enjoying beekeeping and have this common link of this love of these small creatures that form a super organism and spread out every day, getting the bounty of the flowers.
So good. Well put. If you've got questions, put them in the comments below. The theme today is reminiscing We've now 9 years in, can you believe it, since we started. We're still answering questions of people that are saying, this isn't true. How could you possibly harvest honey from a hive this way? Which is amazing that 9 years on, people are still asking that when you can clearly see us harvesting live. But nevertheless, people still in shock and disbelief that this is actually possible. So it tickles us because we spent a decade inventing it, and to have people still going, that's not possible, is amazing. So we've got a couple of different flavours coming out of the hive here, which is something I really enjoy about blowhive beekeeping, is being able to isolate the flavours frame by frame. What do you think?
It
Good?
tastes like wheat mix.
Which one's the nicer flavour, do you think?
That one.
You like the slightly darker one? Malty. Goodness. So what we're actually going to do, Mella, is we're going to have birthday cake. We've got a birthday cake and we're going to put it under the honey stream. Well, all of you out there, think of your questions, and if you've got stories about the beginning, when you were hearing about it for the first time, when you were purchasing perhaps one of the crowdfunding hives, tell us about it. Tell us about your story. Chime in whereabouts in the world you are, and it's just fascinating for us to, I guess, hear more and more about all of you all around the world with our flow hive.
Hey,
Nice, here's the cake.
Cake, I'll bring it right in here, Leah. We'll just put it right under the honey stream. All right, now Mella, can you? Okay, Stu's going to grab the jar.
You ready?
We're just going to swap to the cake. Ready, set, and go. Oh, that's not bad. Not bad at all. So this type of cake really loves honey, and this type of crew really loves to eat cake with honey. So ready for the jar back again? I'm going to cheat. There we go. Yum. It's a bit of a celebration of 9 years. Thank you, all of you who have been involved, and here's some of the faces behind the hive here who have been busy bees working away to make sure everybody gets looked after out there. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey from the very start, and still an amazing learning curve about how to actually go from square one, living in a shed on a shoestring, to delivering hives globally. And the start was especially intense, with 25,000 orders to deliver before Christmas, and we hadn't even made a hive yet. So it's a happy birthday moment, and I think we'll spare you all the singing.
Sing happy birthday in like B.
B.
Keep going, Mira.
That's it. So this cake looks very good. I might have to shorten up these pieces a bit. It's going to be very delicious.
Do we get to eat it?
You can eat some cake. Here we go.
Is it everything friendly?
Yep.
It's everything
Friendly Persian
cake.
love cake.
Here it is.
Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Oh.
An everything friendly cake. You know, choosing honey over sugar is friendly to our world, because we pollinate flowers while we make the honey and support a biodiverse habitat instead of a monoculture of sugarcane and polluted drainways. So, hats off to honey.
You know, one of those early stories when the crowdfunding was happening 9 years ago was someone who had really poor reception, someone in the US. They had to run up the top of a hill to get reception on their phone. But we had, because of technical things and so on, we had to keep delaying the actual launch time when we pressed the button and people were able to support us. So this poor person was running up the hill, not getting through, then getting reception, but it's not ready yet, coming down the hill for something to eat, back up the hill again, and sort of holding their, you know, as you do, hold your phone up in one air with one leg off the ground. Anyway, Finally, that person was able to go, oh, I've got through, and press a button, and became one of our early supporters. And but it just shows the excitement and the effort people were making alongside our effort of let's get this thing off the ground.
It's really cool.
So we're answering questions and telling stories about the beginning today, 9 years in. We're still busy bees working away, a hard-working team here. Here's some of the faces you see behind the hive here. Some of the people you speak to on the phone as well. And yeah, it's just amazing amount of work. So hats off to the team here. Amazing people doing an amazing job to do everything we do here at Flow Hive. Any questions coming in, Trace?
Yeah, look, some great birthday wishes coming in, and lots of early supporters that were right at the start, and just still loving their flow hives after 9 years, which is amazing. But one of the questions is, so after 9 years, what keeps you going?
Oh, it's a good question. Like it's to be perfectly honest, sometimes it is like, wow, okay, here we go again, off to work. Like everybody experiences, I guess. But one of the main drivers that keeps us going is building a company with views and values in it that are actively using business to support the world. And that's something that really keeps me going, and also is shared by our team here. So we've got dozens of projects all around the world that we're supported and are supporting, where we are actively making the world a better place for our bees, which in turn helps all species of life, including us, of course. So that's a really important thing that keeps us going. We've got everything from planting more mangroves in Madagascar to supporting amazing food producing flowering things in the cloud forests of Ecuador, to South Africa, to Colombia, to right here on the Wilson River, planting the rainforest and creating high quality ecosystems for our bees to forage on. So that's a big one, and supporting a whole lot more projects as well. So we try to do business in a way where we can use it to amplify the repair of our world. So thank you for all of those. All of you have been a part of Flow Hive for helping that come to fruition as well.
Is there anything you would have done differently?
Whoa. Is there anything we would have done differently? It's a pretty amazing story, and it's hard to think of it unfolding in a different way. But of course, there was lots of twists and turns along the way that could have ended up in some sort of disaster, I guess, but it didn't. So I think we're very lucky in the choices that we made, in the luck we had, in the amazing way the campaign took off around the world so that we could get on our feet and get going. And yeah, I think it's just amazing the way it's played out. And of course there's small things that you might do differently. You wish you had have done this or not done that, or got manufacturing happening here earlier, or those kind of things. But I guess we had so many orders in the beginning, and we were overwhelmed with orders. So you look at it and go, why did we then do, say, $1 million worth of refunds to people who decided, oh, maybe I won't keep a flow hive? That's a pretty unusual thing to do as a business. But for us, we're like, well, if you don't want one, we don't want you to have one. But you look back on it and go, was that the smartest? But, I still think it was a good choice.
Oh, there's a couple of really great comments that I think I should read out. This is one from Free Range Art Farm, and they're just loving their flow hive, and they're using it in an accessible hive, which is great for people with different physical challenges.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of amazing that the flow hive's done that. And then another one from Simon saying, congratulations to you all, started with the classic and has now moved to the Flow Hive 2, and really loving it, and has really helped with their mental health issues and kept me motivated as a beekeeper. So it's just kind of, I don't know, those stories are pretty, had to read those, make me goosebumps.
Oh, thank you so much for all your stories. We have a internal little stories page, and it's really nice. They get shared around the team, and we get really warmed and encouraged by all your positive stories coming in about your beekeeping and how that's affected you, and how you've opened your eyes to perhaps the world of bees and flowers and gardens and the impact that has. So keep the stories coming in. It's really, really sweet to read them, and it is something that keeps us going to answer the earlier question.
Sure does. And Stu, this might be a good question for you. Heather wants to know, what would you recommend to say to my well-established beekeeper father-in-law to convince him to switch to the flow hive?
You know, we've had so many stories of, they tend to be beekeepers as old as me or older, who are, pretty firm in their ways, shall I say. And so to take on something new requires a whole change. And I've heard many of them swap over when a young person's asked them, hey, we've got this flow hive and we need a hand. We need a hand. We want to understand beekeeping better. How do we keep them healthy? All of those sorts of things. And then the old codger, or older woman will come in and help them. And that's a lovely exchange of knowledge and all around the caring for bees. And then, of course, that older person gets to be there at the first harvest. And again we've heard them just go, the jaw drops, they go, what? The honey's coming straight out of the hive? And whereas they're used to, hours and hours, if not days of work, hauling the old super to the laundry and then covering the floor in their house with sticky footsteps and things like that. So that's one way, is to involve them. And but to convert someone, to get them to buy one, maybe you'll have to give it as a present.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
And maybe now's the time to talk about the birthday bundle. Because there's a really good sale on, no matter, just check your websites. There's great savings. There's a deluxe bundle with our fabulous caddy. There's bee suits, smokers, the Flow Hive 2 Plus, which is the hive that we're harvesting from today. So maybe it's time to get your father-in-law one of these, and you can get him the whole kit and caboodle.
You can do the whole kit and caboodle, but for someone that's already got bees, all they need is the Flow Super, and it will fit onto their existing hives. Well, there's a few sizes, so you should check, but they're designed to fit onto existing beehives. So for someone like that, they might just appreciate having a Flow Super on top of the brood that they love.
Yeah, we've got options there depending on how you want to get going, but the main thing I think is to get going. So many people hesitate, and when we get feedback that people say, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? We've had that feedback so much. So I think, just like a lot of things in life, when you jump in, that's when the fun begins. Look at this honey coming out, isn't that amazing? Yeah?
That one's fuller.
It is a little bit fuller than this one, isn't it? And is it the same colour or a different colour?
That one's lighter.
That one's a lighter colour and a different flavour. Here's my sister.
I've waited.
My sister Vera coming in. She's been there from the beginning.
From before the beginning.
Before the beginning, yeah. We would fly her up from Melbourne, where she was working in the city in the film industry, and we would turn a handle on the hive and the thing would break, and we'd go, oh, it didn't work, and we'd fly her back to Melbourne again.
Yeah, that's one story that really springs to my mind when I think about, the birth of Flow Hive, was the little teaser video that we uploaded. And so I was down in Melbourne and Cedar was up here in the shed, and I think our Facebook page had like 800 likes, like followers that were pretty much just all Cedar and Stu's friends. And we uploaded this little teaser video, and I remember it was like about 1 a.m, and Cedar and I Skyped each other. I've got this little screenshot of us just smiling because it hit 1 million views in 30 hours. And I just remember being like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It was just like, I just remember that really blow my mind, and that was just like, I love that. We were both like, oh my God, and so it's like I'm waiting up to watch it tick over. I'm like, I've got to sleep.
Yeah, that was quite a moment, and life hasn't been the same since. But at that moment, we didn't really know whether that would translate into people liking the actual product that we were pledging to build. And that whether people would take the risk of us building a product. So it was a lot of attention and 1,000 emails to answer every day from thereafter. A little overwhelming. That was when we realised that actually we're not going to be able to do it with just Stu and I and Mira and you know, we're actually going to need a few more people. So it was just, what happened was incredible, and I only know how incredible it is now because we were doing the hiring now is, like normal companies, it takes a while and all of that, but in that instance there was such a buzz going on that we had 40 people overnight working around the clock just about just to grab what was just an extraordinary kind of whirlwind of a start in the world of actually making things for us. Incredible.
It was so cool watching everyone just jump on board and having all those friends that had skills and just everyone getting in and
and that's another gratitude. It couldn't have happened without all those people willing to drop whatever they were doing. They're skilled people, and come and help us and just go flat out way into the night after night, just covering what needed to be covered so that we could actually start manufacturing, so we could untangle the crazy database, so we could deal with the financial institutions who didn't necessarily want to let go of any of that money, and so on. It was such a crazy time, and we needed people with a lot of skills, and they came. We're so thankful for that.
And then more questions, Trey?
Yeah, thanks, Stewie, for that. Oh, this is just another comment too, because quite a few people say, oh, they're really hard to put together and all, how long is it going to take me? Well, Hive and Chip are saying they basically built their flow hive last week. They're in their 60 plus years. They're so impressed and reckon it's the best flat pack they've ever seen. Such an easy assembly, easy and clear to follow instructions, and great packaging. So that's so good to hear that.
Awesome.
60 plus.
Thank you.
My era.
We certainly tried hard to make it a lovely experience.
And the little numbers that there's like little laser etched numbers on the inside.
Yep, on the 2 plus there is for sure. Yep, for sure. And so what's in the future for Flow Hive? Have you got other plans? Is there the Flow Hive 3 plus? Is there?
Flow Hive 15.
Yeah.
Stu and I, thanks to all of our busy workers, have been getting time to get back into the workshop and do more inventing. So we're very excited to be working on more inventions to do with beekeeping, to help people look after their bees, and you'll be seeing that in this next year. If you stay tuned, you'll see some interesting stuff that will be... That's all we're going to say.
No!
I've said too much already.
Oh no, Johnny, this is a question for Mela. Johnny, well, first of all, Sally asked, did I bake the cake? And I have to say, no, Sally, I didn't bake the cake. Here on beautiful Bundjalung country, it was Harvest Cafe at Newrybar. But Johnny wants to know, what does Mela think of the cake?
What do you think of the cake? Is it any good? Johnny's asking.
Well, she's eaten a big piece. Yeah, I think so. I think, Johnny, we got the thumbs up here.
It gets a bit of a wrap. So that's a thank you to Harvest, our local amazing cafe just down the road here.
I just saw a blue-banded bee.
Mira just saw a blue-banded bee. That's what she was talking about.
They love these purple flowers.
And that's sort of on my point before. Once you become a beekeeper, you become aware of not only, of course, the European honeybee. You'll notice them buzzing around flowers wherever you go, in cities and towns and rural, but you'll start to become aware of the native bees. And in Australia, there's 1,600 species, most of them solitary, not forming a hive, and in the world there's 20,000 species, and they're vital, to life. to life as we know it. So, and they're very, very beautiful. So what a vital and beautiful. What more could you want?
I know. Sometimes people ask, why is beekeeping so popular? And I think about it and go, well, there's so much going for it. You've got this very small footprint in your backyard, and with a flow hive you don't actually need the whole extracting room and all of the paraphernalia and expensive equipment to go along with it. You just need this. And when you've got this in your garden, you get so many reports of the pollination helping their gardening, helping their crops, and of course the wider area. So you've got the pollinating aspect, you've got the learning aspect, you've got the honey harvest, which is just incredible and such a gift from the bees to be able to share some of their spoils like this. And you know, each one of these frames will fill one of these big jars. It's just incredible. So it's this amazing connector of so many dots, and I think that's why beekeeping's become so popular in the world, is because it all just rolls together. And then with our flow hive invention, you've got this thing that is kind of so futuristic but also very basic, where you turn a handle and
just
real
agricultural
produce fills your jar. And there's not many things in the world where you can turn a handle and cheese comes out of the...
Cedar said in your garden, and he's quite right, most flow hives are in gardens and they enhance the garden and so on. But I've visited many people with hives on their balconies, some of them 15 stories up in the air. So there's no limit to where you can have a hive as long as it's safe and you can get, access it, and the flight path isn't where everyone else is walking, So, 15 stories up, whatever. The bees in the city areas are incredible. They have access to hundreds of varieties of flowers, so you don't need to worry about whether you've got flowers in your garden, because the bees are going to go 2 kilometres, 3 kilometres, 4 kilometres, 5 miles? No, 3 miles, and access foliage all around them. So
I love seeing those pictures of people's hives in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. The rooftop beekeeping in the city is so cool. It's like, wow. So you can do it everywhere. It's one of the great things about beekeeping too, is humans yearn to be on the land, to be able to produce their own food, and here's something we can do even if you don't have land. Any questions?
Yeah, this might be a good one. This is coming in from Chef Ruben. Got a 1/4 acre property with lots of fruit trees and really close to getting their flow hive. Just wondering, are the bees aggressive while they're working?
Well, genetics is the big role there. So you can go around to the entrance of a hive, and a calm hive, you can play around at the entrance and they're not aggressive. An aggressive hive, that's when you'll tend to know about it, because when you play around the entrance side, maybe you're mowing there or you're trying to get a photo of the entrance, then an aggressive hive can then sting you. So it's not so much what you're doing or when you're harvesting, it's just the genetics of the hive. Obviously when you rip apart the hive, a more aggressive hive will be more likely to sting you, but at that time you're in your bee suit. If you're starting off as a new beekeeper, wear your bee suit, wear your gloves when you're around your hive, get used to them, get used to the bees and how they behave and what the temperament is of your hive. And if they do have aggression in their nature and they do want to sting people when they're near the hive, then the best thing to do is take the old queen away and replace it with a new one, and about 6 weeks later you'll have a completely different temperament of your hive. So you can order queens with specific genetics that are nice and gentle, and that's a great way to start in beekeeping, with a nice gentle hive.
I think the question was also around, well, if I have much more bees around my garden or my orchard, are those bees that are foraging aggressive? And the short answer to that is no. If you're not stomping on them or sort of somehow, swatting them or anything like that, the bees are just going about their business. They're not alarmed, they're just looking for nectar and pollen, and so they're not aggressive when they're foraging.
Fantastic. Oh, this is a beautiful message from Alex saying, happy birthday, long may your journey grow, and thank you for introducing me to the secret lives of bees. Totally hooked. Help save the bees. Love my flow hive. Oh, Alex, thank you. That's so beautiful.
You.
So many awesome people tuning in with their stories of beekeeping and how it helps them in their lives. It's just so beautiful. So, of course, beginners are always saying, is this a good hive to get started with?
Absolutely. One of the amazing things about the flow hive is there's actually less of a learning curve in terms of the honey harvesting piece of it. You don't have to set up a room, learn how to use a centrifuge, the decapping knife, the how to process your honey and sieve it and all of that to get it to a level where you can jar it up. And all of that, you literally turn the handle when the honey comes out of the hive like this. So for that reason, it's a great hive for beginners or advanced because that step is cut way down. Of course, just like any beekeeping, you still need to look after your bees, whether it be a Langstroth hive with a conventional super on it or a top bar hive or any other myriad of hives types in the world. You still need to look after your bees and make sure they're not suffering from pests and diseases. So the beekeeping bit's the same, the harvesting is a nice gentle process.
Add to that, we'd encourage anyone thinking about taking up bees is to begin learning about how to care for them and learn how to make them more productive or productive at all. And so you can do that in a number of ways. The first one I mentioned is we started an educational site called thebeekeeper.org. We'd encourage you to look at that. There's dozens of experts in their field and their specialty of beekeeping there giving you talks, and it's all structured as a learning course. Or you can hook up with a local beekeeper who hopefully will love teaching you, or your local bee club, or all three. We really encourage you to learn it because it's fascinating anyway. It's a lovely, lovely thing to learn even if you don't get around to your bees, but of course you should get around to getting your bees.
And we're here most weeks to answer your questions live, and we're often inside the hive pulling things apart, so you're not alone. We can help answer your questions as you get started in the amazing pursuit of beekeeping.
Yeah, Mike was saying he's had a flow hive running since 2023 December, checking it regularly. The bottom box was full, so just added another brood box, and the super weighs about 20 kilos. Just wondering if he could harvest some honey, given it's been approximately 3 months.
Where does he live?
Not sure where Mike's living.
Okay, so it really depends on the... you've got a conventional two brood boxes and then the flow super on top,
Yep.
that's what I was hearing.
Yep.
So when you see honey in here like this, that's usually the time to harvest. Sometimes you can harvest a bit earlier. If you step up here, Callum, and just have a look at this honey, you can see that we have honey in the frame, and that's when they've capped it off, and you can see the capping down here. This cross-section view really helps you understand when it's time to harvest. Most of these frames are empty because we've been harvesting a lot recently. This one is still full. So as soon as you see honey getting capped off, so these cells are all full and they're putting the wax on, you can go ahead and harvest the full frames.
Yeah. So if you're Southern Hemisphere, for sure, you should still harvest.
Yeah, so it depends on the season. If you've got
yeah.
a long cold winter ahead, then perhaps you need to leave it for the bees, ask for local advice there. Here in the subtropics we can harvest all year round. We're lucky like that. In other places you get this really like 3 or 4 months of a compressed bee season where it's very exciting, and then the hive is more dormant for the rest of the season. So location will be important there to answer your question. But it works all around the world, way up north in the cold areas where they only get a few months of flowering summertime, and also in the hot, dry places, and also in the wet tropical places. Lucky for us, the European honeybee, Apis mellifera, that humans have dragged all around the world wherever they go, are just amazing at adapting and air conditioning the hive to suit the environment. They'll even disconnect their wing muscles and vibrate to warm the hive, and they keep it just slightly below body temperature in here to raise their young. And when it's hot, they'll go and collect water and use evaporative cooling techniques by fanning the water to cool the hive. So incredible.
Oh, that's so great, because there's a few questions and you've kind of answered it. Are they good in really cold places like Canadian winters? But you've kind of answered that question, really.
Absolutely, yeah. There's lots of people up there keeping flow hives, and we've seen some extraordinary stories and pictures come out of there as well.
Nice. We've got a customer here in Australia in the Margaret River. They're just waiting for their flow hive, but just wondering with the winter, if it doesn't stop raining for a month, is it too late to maybe start the hive?
Yeah, that's true. When it's raining, the nectar's washed out of the flowers. The trees might not even be flowering. So it's what's called, beekeepers called a dearth. There's no nectar, no food available. And whether you've just got a hive and just got a colony, or you've got existing colonies, if it's been raining that long, you've really got to look out for your bees and whether they've got enough to eat. And there are signals you can see on the beekeeper.org, or we can say there's ways you can see where your bees are getting hungry, ways to watch and notice. And in that case, you've got to feed them. And usually you feed them the sugar syrup to get them through. But sometimes you also feed them as bee food, in pollen
Right.
and stuff.
And how do you know when to stop feeding them?
So the time that people stop feeding is usually we don't need to feed here at all, just to clarify, because there's always something. Occasionally we will, just for fun, to experiment with feeders and so on. But in many places, beekeepers do feed their bees, and the time they stop is when the flowers kick in, because they don't want to adulterate their honey with sugar syrup. So they're feeding to let the colony build up prior to a flow, say in spring, or they're feeding just prior to winter. And they usually stop when winter comes, satisfied with that the bees have stored some of that sugar syrup to get them through the winter. So if there's not enough honey stores, then they might feed them prior to winter. They might feed them after winter to pick them up just before spring hits, and they'll stop feeding them as the flow comes on, so to make sure they've got honey in the frames and not sugar syrup.
Oh, great. This is another one. It's from Looking for Peace Building. Loving the flow hives, been beekeepers for a couple of years and just love how their garden is thriving through to the better pollination. But it was a really great bonding experience for them and their new husband, as we used our delicious honey as guest favours for our wedding. Oh, that's a bit gorgeous,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's so nice, isn't it? We've done some lovely weddings actually, where we've filled tiny little jars and had a hive right there on site, and everyone has taken home a small jar of honey harvested at the wedding.
Yeah, lovely thing to do.
Nice. Is now this one, or maybe you could split this question. What are your top 9 joyous and gratitude moments over the last 9 years? Now throwing that one at you.
Top 9.
Yeah, top 9, one for each year.
Hasn't melted yet.
Oh look,
Pat delivery.
sister on key.
A little hot out here.
It's very hot.
Do you need to take your arms off, Cedar, and flap it like a bee or something?
That's right. We need to flap it, and I'm gonna
Do the bee
We need
dance.
some water.
and I'll try not to expose my Nasanoff gland.
Do the waggle.
That's an inside joke for beekeepers. So
Yeah, 9. That gave you time to think about one.
9.
9 or one each, or like, do you need to think about it?
top moments.
Top moments.
Well, let's start early on. One of the first moments was that amazing moment we dropped the teaser video that Mira was talking about earlier, and boom, we had 1 million views in the first 30 hours, and life hasn't been the same since. That was an extraordinary moment. And the next one was when the crowdfunding kicked off, and we actually, amazingly, the amazing amount of attention we were getting online actually translated into people wanting our flow hive, which is a bit of a wild card, right? Because, crowdfunding was generally for widgets and gizmos, and we were one of the first more agricultural things that hit the streets and broke all the records. So that was an amazing moment too. So absolutely extraordinary.
There was moments before the crowdfunding too, of course. There was the moment when, after years and years of work, and certainly both of us involved, but Cedar driving the project, doing most of the working until 2 o'clock in the morning, making up intricate little devices that failed, that after years and years of that, and some years before crowdfunding, we turned this little socket wrench in the side of a conventional hive and the honey came out. That was a moment.
Oh, that was a moment. That was the moment.
That was the moment, and that was, we
Yeah.
know now, the first time that anyone had ever achieved that in the world. So, it still bounces around in my skull going, that was the moment.
Oh, so what are we up to, 4?
Yeah, I reckon that's 4. Couple more
Okay.
each and you're done.
One of the next moments was right in the middle of the crowdfunding. Vanuatu had this terrible earthquake, and we went, well, how can we help? So we said, well, we've got an opportunity here. Let's raffle off the first flow hive in the world to be delivered. And $5 raffle tickets. We raised $100,000 in 3 days, and we donated it straight to Vanuatu, and that kicked off this amazing sense of, hey, we now have this amazing community globally, and together we can achieve amazing things. And that trend we have kept going into all of our impact stuff and stuff we do all around the world for the bees, dozens of projects, 1.5 million trees planted so far in high quality ecosystems for the bees and habitat in general. So that was an amazing formative moment right there as well. And rolling on from that, my son was born in the middle of crowdfunding. He really does get FOMO quite badly, so he couldn't resist and came a bit early to be part of the party. And that was an amazing moment. A moment too. How many are we up to? We're up to probably 7.
7, yeah.
7 extraordinary moments. So then, delivering the first flow hive, that was super fun. So the first flow hive, the first box of flow frames, if you look up drone delivery, we'll put a comment below. We're ahead of the curve with drone deliveries. Of course, they're happening in cities now with drones, but I was a drone bee dressed in a fluffy bee suit, flying my paraglider off Mount Tamborine, carrying the first box of flow frames and handing it to the lucky winner of the Vanuatu raffle fundraiser.
Oh,
That was fun.
you might have to do it next year, see. It's 10 years on.
That was super fun. And the list goes on.
The list goes on.
There's been so many, but we need one more.
One more.
I think we'll just come to present day. It's still some sort of gobsmacking miracle. Here we are, and we've got a lovely staff we're working with every day. We've got a workshop, we've got lovely offices, and this extraordinary view, and the bees here. This is an ongoing moment of, that I appreciate so deeply.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry. That's beautiful. And this is a good. I don't remember Cormac Farrell. He looks after the beehives at Parliament.
Hi, Cormac.
At Parliament Apiary. Yeah, he's tuning in, just saying, just regularly checked one of the original hives on the weekend, and they're still going strong. Has 2 new flow hives, now 4 in total. They produce honey gifts for VIPs and even flavoured vodka, food and soap.
Oh. Vodka, food and soap.
I know.
At Parliament House.
At Parliament House.
So here we are, not so far from where my grandfather still has bees in Yarralumla, and that's where we kicked off our crowdfunding, because we had this crazy idea that we should go to a city, thinking we'd never be able to get interest out here in the country. So we actually took a box of sticky flow frames and stuck it on the plane, because my grandfather's flow frames hadn't quite filled up yet. And off we went to Yarralumla, just over the hill from Parliament House. And we got to the airport, and they said, no, it's too heavy, because honey's really heavy, right? So we're like, what do we do? The honey's too heavy in the box, and it's in the suitcase. And we thought, well, we'll throw away the suitcase. So then we had this sticky box, like imagine this super just pulled off with honey dripping out of it. We chucked it on the conveyor, and off it went. And we're like, oh my God, I really hope that makes it. It's kind of key to our launch. We've got the media coming. The ABC is going to be filming us in Canberra, in the capital city. And we got to the other end, and there it was, a sticky box of honey going around on the conveyor.
Yeah. All the luggage handlers would have been going, what's that?
Oh my God.
So then we put it on our grandfather's hives and then prepared for the crowdfunding launch the next day. And that was quite a moment.
It was.
Oh, and Mira knows all about this, about how do you get the bees initially and what are they good on apartment balconies, knowing that Mira used to live in Berlin and had a hive on her balcony.
Yeah.
You better come in on this one, Mira.
Definitely balconies. Well, how to get bees. Make friends with a beekeeper is a great way, and then they can split a hive for you, but you can also buy a nucleus of bees, which is like a little mini beehive, and that I reckon is the best way to start. I think in America and Canada they do packages of bees a lot, which is like a box of bees with a queen. But yeah, it's great. Make friends with the beekeeper, help them out, you get to learn, and then often they're like, oh, I've got spare bees, or I'm splitting a hive, and yeah, it's a great way to learn and a great way to start. But yes, balcony bees. I had 2 beehives on my balcony in Berlin, just on a first floor balcony, about 2 metres long, about 1 metre wide, and about 30 sunflowers for the bees, and a bunch of other flowers. And yeah, it really, like, not having to go and extract somewhere. You know, I just had a little room in a share house with a little balcony, and it enabled, like with the flow hive, it enabled me to have that and harvest honey like directly outside of my window.
That's true. How do people do it with conventional hives on a balcony? They've got to take the frames.
Or on a rooftop.
Yeah,
like
on a
they've got to
rooftop.
lug all the, like, I went and filmed one of the Meet the Beekeeper series, which is one of my favourite things about Flow, is that we got to meet a lot of our customers. I went filming, and Jai also has been filming and meeting people that have bought a Flow hive and supported us. So I remember being in America, you know, sort of in DC, and climbing up this row house and through a hole in the ceiling up a ladder with these 2 people onto their rooftop beehive, and they had flow hives, and yeah, it's been incredible just like seeing how it's also changed people's lives, and how someone puts a hive in their community and then they talk to their neighbours, can you not spray because it's going to harm the bees, and then they give them honey, and so this little kind of ripple effect happens where someone has this personal connection with this beautiful creature, the bee, and then suddenly their whole kind of view changes around how they look after their environment, because they're looking after it for their bees.
Yeah, so true, Mira. And you know, when you did your hive in Berlin, and you with your, did the honey taste different than it tastes here?
Oh, really different. And one of the things in Berlin is the main nectar flow that happens in the summer is called the linden tree. And this is very fragrant, and it has this really light, like almost fluoro yellow honey. And I thought, oh, look, there's one main nectar flow. My whole super looks like it's bright yellow. It's probably all going to taste the same. But every single frame I harvested had a slightly different flavour. And that really blew my mind, because I thought, oh, well, that's the major nectar flow. That's probably all they're going to get. But because we're in the city and there's all these little gardens and there'd be fruit trees and all sorts of, like, yeah, little things, even in a kind of main monofloral kind of crop for the summer, I still had every frame in my hive was different, slightly different flavour. So that was so exciting.
That is amazing, and it's I think one of the many joys, and that was an unexpected one, is being able to isolate those honey flavours and bring the story of the different flavours to the table, because, you know, a lot of people think, oh, honey is just honey, but when you suddenly present a dark one, a light one, and different flavours, they go, oh, how did that happen? Is that because they're different bees? And this story unfolds and goes all night.
I find it hard to give honey to people without giving them at least 2 different flavours. Like, it's almost like I want a little gift package with, like, oh, here's 3 flavours. It's like honey isn't just this one mixed mid-tone, never crystallises thing, you know? It changes, and it's...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because commercially, supermarket honey is often thousands of hives all blended together. Then the honey's been cooked to the point it will never crystallise, which destroys vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and those medicinal properties of honey. So always good to get honey straight from the hive.
Like Miller is doing right now. She's loving it.
Yeah, that's it.
when of course we tested the flow frames a lot before we did crowdfunding. It's really important that your product actually works and works for people that have never seen it before. So one of the he's actually a very, very experienced beekeeper in commercial and inspector of bees. When he tried out the flow frame, he was really, really impressed, and then he tasted the honey and he said, this honey tastes like the honey you get when you bite into fresh honeycomb, but without the wax. So he was putting his finger on something we didn't realise at the time, is that the honey coming out of a flow hive is really, really fresh. It hasn't touched the air, it hasn't been spun against stainless steel and an extractor. We don't really know all the reasons why, but it tastes very, very fresh, and you can taste what they call the floral notes, the flowers in the honey. And at the time we thought, he's just excited as we are, we think it tastes special too. But we got Queensland University involved, they've done tests and they're going to do some more too. And they showed with independent testing that through mass spectrometers and through specialist tasting panels that the honey from the flow hive does indeed taste fresh and bright compared to other extraction methods. So there was another thing we just really didn't know would happen when we were busy trying to make it easy to get honey from a beehive.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Look, got a shout out to John. John's tuning in.
Milla's just pointing out there's some ants have found one of the jars, and that actually makes it medicinal honey because it's full of little antibodies. Dad joke. Thanks, Dad.
Had to be done. Had to be done. Anyway, back to John in Lismore. You guys might know him, John Visco. I don't know, he's in Lismore, beekeeper. Got a little bit of honey stored in the brood box, but the bees are eating from the super. So John's question is, do the queen's attendants get honey to her to eat from the super and take it down to the brood box?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you'll see a crowd of attendants around a queen bee. It's one way to help spot the queen bee, is because there'll be this crowd of bees paying attention to just one, the queen, and following her around, leaving a little wake behind as she moves. And yes, those bees are feeding the queen because she is doing an extraordinary job. She's laying thousands, up to 2,000 eggs a day. That takes a lot of energy. So she needs not only the honey, but the pollen, which is their bee's protein, to be fed to keep going, and the attendants will do that.
Fantastic. Parvin's tuned in, I think, after Mirrors in Germany, and just wanted to ask if the hive is unique to us, or are we the producers of this hive, because they've seen this hive in America, and just wondering, is it the same hive?
Yeah, absolutely. So from square one, we were delivering to 130 different countries. So we have flow hives all around the world, and that was an amazing and frightening way to start. However, just be warned that from the very beginning, even before we could deliver the very first flow hive, there was knockoffs being made, and also people taking people's money and never delivering anything. And it still happens to this day. We work hard to try and make sure scams aren't happening, but of course they still pop up, and the place that you need to go to make sure you are getting the proper flow hive and not getting scammed is honeyflow.com. So if you look at honeyflow.com, that'll direct you straight to, if you're in Australia, it will direct you to the .au. If you're in Europe, it will direct you to the Europe website, and so on. And that way your hive will come out of the local warehouse in your local region.
Fantastic, Cedar, and maybe it's a good time too then, because a couple of people are saying, are we having a birthday sale? Well, yes we are. Honeyflow.com, and as you said, Seeds, check on it and you'll take you to your area and you'll find out about the fabulous sale that we've got. I think it's till like the 2nd or 5th of March, can't remember, someone will post it. But and it's the Flow Hive 2 Plus, which is what Cedar and Stu are harvesting from today to get this beautiful golden honey.
Yes, and tell us what's in it, in the special.
In the bundle, okay, there's two. There's one with the Flow Hive 2 Plus and a organic cotton bee suit with gloves and a smoker. And then there's the deluxe bundle, which has got the Flow Hive 2 Plus, the bee suit, the smoker, the gloves, but it also comes with the Flow Caddy, which is an awesome little toolbox. It's $180 off. Everyone's able to get the free beekeeping lessons, the 30-day beekeeping lessons on the beekeeper.org. And so, as Cedar said, just if you go to honeyflow.com, it'll direct you to where in the world you are and put you on the right seat. So there's different savings, 180, 150, depending on which dollars we're talking about.
And
Great sale.
like me, sometimes you need an excuse to jump in and get going with something. So if you have been thinking about it, then here's a great excuse to get started. You can jump in on our birthday special. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's our 9th year, can you believe it? And here we are celebrating the birthday. Time for a couple more questions and then we better get out of the sun.
Fantastic. Cedar, Stu, why did you choose to make the hives out of the Australian Araucaria hoop pine and the Western red cedar? Were they the best timbers to use?
Okay, so the Araucaria has been a very popular, it's the premium wood here in Australia for beehives, and that's our local grown timber here in plantation grown in Queensland, so we wanted to support local industry here. And in North America you've also got the cedar is viewed as the premium hive. It's not only because it's my name, but it's the actual wood is what people view as premium. So when we did the crowdfunding, we actually initially just showed a radiata pine hive, and we wanted to overwhelm our amazing supporters and deliver them the very best we could. So we actually gave them all a beautiful cedar hive with extra bells and whistles than we were showing off in the beginning. So, and since then it's quite popular, so we've maintained that wood option in our range.
Fantastic. And I might, Balu's just tuned in and is already a beekeeper and was just asking about the birthday special. If you've already got the gear, you would have been sent an email, Flow customers, and there's another little deal there for you if you don't need the suit and the smoker and things like that. Check your email, check your inbox. Any problems, just contact customer support. And there is, so if you've already got a lot of that equipment, so you don't need to purchase it again. Just thought I'd better shout that one out.
Awesome.
And lucky last question, how much honey do you get out of the Flow Hive?
Okay, that's a great question. Of course, you can't get any out unless the bees have excess and are storing some for you as well. Bees, very exciting in the springtime in most places when you get the most flowers producing nectar. So when that coincides with a nice strong colony, they can fill up all of these frames, and you get a big jar like this from every single frame here. So in this case it'd be 7 of these big jars that can hold 3 kilograms of honey. And in that springtime, sometimes a couple of weeks later it's full again, and that's very exciting. But equally on the other end of the scale, you can have a poor season and get nothing at all. So like any kind of farming, the weather plays a big role. There could have been drought, could have been fire. So patience is one of the keys to getting a good honey harvest as well. Thanks for tuning in and sharing our birthday with us. And if you've got stories of the beginning or stories of how beekeeping has been a part of your life and you want to share that with us, it's always wonderful for us to read those stories and hear them from all over the world. So a big thank you for celebrating with us and for being with us on what is now a 9-year journey.
9 years! Woohoo!
And we'll see you next week, same time.
Thank you so much.